Morning, everybody.
Morning, morning. Welcome.
Thank you, Ralph.
How are you?
I'm super, man. Glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, thanks you for coming. I know many of you are busy. A lot of things happening, so
All good.
yeah. Hi, Annie. Yeah, so I hope everyone is doing well.
Depends on what you mean by well in this day and age, man.
That's absolutely how it is. So, yeah. Before we start, please write in the chat your name, your company or occupation, or what kind of entity or organization you're coming from, and which country, and also which mood you guys are in today. So you see the chat box down in the bottom. So as I was saying, just write a small summary of yourselves down at the chat. So which company or organization you're from, and where in the world, so the other participants can see where you guys are from. Hi, Roy. Welcome. Hi, Rajat. Welcome. You too, Annie. Hi. Hi, Samir. I see that you are without microphone. That's fine. Hi, Valeria. Hi, Bart. Hi, Colette. Hi, Corinne. Hi, Jennifer. Welcome, everyone. So for you who came in last now, please state your name, your company or organization which you're coming from, and which country, and also what kind of mood or what kind of thoughts and feelings you have for today. So while people are writing, I want to introduce now the session for today. So just welcome, Kato. Hi, Kato.
Hi. I had a bit of a issue. I didn't realize whether it was a call or a video conference, but I finally got it.
Okay, sure, no problem. So please, in the chat box down in the bottom, you just state your name, your company, where in the world you're coming from, and a little bit about your mood or expectations or thoughts for today, so the other participants can see whom you are.
Okay, in the chat box, right?
Yeah, you see it in the middle of the screen down at the bottom. It says chat. You just click on it and you.
I'm in it.
Yeah. Hi, Rodrigo. Welcome. So Rodrigo, I mentioned to the others that you write in the chat box down at the bottom. You would just click on chat and then you write your name, your company, where you're coming from and your mood, thoughts, feeling for today, or expectations. People can see, so the other participants can see whom you guys are and where you're coming from. We have a mixed group today from several parts of the world, and that's really cool. Yeah. So did you want to ask something, Rodrigo? I see you raised your hand. Or did you just hit the button?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. No, just to say hi, and I'm fully paying attention of the conversation. Hope you will.
Okay. Welcome. Okay.
Thank you.
So as I was saying, we are a very mixed group today with participants from several parts of the world, and I'm thrilled to connect with all of you. Welcome to this session with Catalyst 2030. The theme for today, as many of you know, is sow bubbles, and how this can be used as a solution to reduce hunger. So I know quite a few of you are very eager to see now how this can be used. Yeah, hi Ear, welcome to you as well. So while we have started now to introduce the theme for today, the last incoming participants, please state going down to the chat and write your name, your company, what you're doing, and which country you come from, and thoughts, feelings, and expectations for today, so the other participants can see. So if any one of you has any questions during this webinar, there will be a section at the end for questions and answers. So I will try to go through now the most important points with our presentation, approximately half an hour, and then we will have the last half an hour, 20-25 minutes. We will see how much time we will have for the questions and answers in case of you have any questions you want to ask, or if you have any comments or even suggestions for either improvement or even a wish to collaborate with us. That's one of our scopes now with this session, is that we want to engage, would like to engage people, more companies, to bring our eco-friendly solutions to market. So Catalyst 2030, that's a collaboration between social entrepreneurs worldwide, foundations and companies, governments, politicians, and so on, to basically fuel a change in the positive direction within this decade. So Home to Live has initiated a collaboration with Catalyst 2030 recently, and this is the second part of a series of webinars. The last round, there were around 150,000 participants over 2 days in several different webinars. And now this second round is, let's say, more focused on finding the solutions both to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic, which is ongoing, but also in general to cope with social issues worldwide. So the other organizations which are cooperating to make this webinar 2 days now happen is Ashoka, Echoing Green, and the Schwab Foundations, as well as Skull Foundation. So they are not-for-profit foundations working on a global scale. Okay, so anyway, our company or our eco-friendly hub is called Home to Live, and today's theme is soap bubbles as a solution to reduce hunger. Our eco-friendly hub was established around 8 years ago. It happened so that I had a dream. I woke up one morning 8 years ago where I saw crystal clear that there were a lot of things which could have been done differently, especially within the real estate industry. I had been an entrepreneur in the real estate industry, both as an investor and also as a developer for quite a number of years. Since the end of the 90s, I began building, constructing, after I had been originally a lieutenant in the Norwegian Army. So it's quite a distance from being an officer in the Army to the real estate world. Anyway, I used to be a platoon leader in the Norwegian Army, and I served for quite a few number of years with NATO exercises up in North Norway. I was leading up to 100 men during that period. And later I was a CEO for different companies before I decided to start, let's say, my own companies within real estate, and as an investor was my first few years, and then later as an importer of building materials, and eventually also as an entrepreneur developer doing new constructions, refurbishing, maintenance, and so on. Mainly in Norway, and for the past few years living in Spain. So I'm originally Norwegian, also half Italian, and living in Spain. So it's quite a mix. I am working together with my wife and business partner, Trude, whom has been part of our businesses for quite a number of years. She has a law degree from Norway, so that comes in handy in several occasions, especially doing contracts with several partners worldwide. She is the co-founder of Home to Live and also the chief operating officer, if you will. So the two of us, we work in our regular businesses on a daily basis, meaning that we have companies in Norway and companies in Spain within real estate. And while this eco-friendly hub is more like a solution provider to spread eco-friendly solutions to the world via partnerships. So and we have collaborators, joint venture companies, suppliers, architects, engineers, local building companies, and so on in more than 30 countries. Actually, it's quite a few years now since we passed 30 countries. I think I have lost track if it's 50 countries or even more than 80 countries right now. I'm not sure, but it's quite a lot. So Home to Live is an eco-friendly hub where we work within the social entrepreneurship arena, but we focus on for-profit, meaning that we feel that, you know, when you do, even if you do good, you need to source income, and we mix our knowledge with marketing and sales in order to enhance and focus on the income side of the business in order to support the social side of the business wanting to do good. So while other, let's say, regular companies maximize their earnings for themselves, we maximize the earnings for the better good for those we serve. So that's the difference, but we do focus on the for-profit side of things. Our main focus started with affordable and secure housing. Since I was within building, I was building and importing building materials from Lithuania since 2002, and saw that the Norwegian market, they were still doing the same things they did since 100 years. They build with wooden constructions, concrete constructions, and so on. And when I asked some of the bigger companies why they were not using eco-friendly solutions, usually it was because of the investors mainly, whom were used to do things, let's say, the way they did or were doing since many years back. It felt safer. So that has been the bottleneck in many cases, that investors and developers, they tend to go safe. So instead of utilizing new, modern, and better solutions, they go with the old-fashioned which cost more money, both in maintenance and in construction. While we focus now on bringing new and eco-friendly solutions to market. We work with energy-saving systems. All kind of energy saving systems, solar panels, solar film. We have one participant with us today, Roy, which is working on solar films, for example, flexible films, which can be bonded on the side of buildings, on the cladding and so on, and generate energy also on the shady side of buildings. That's quite interesting. And other types of solutions, there exist a lot. We even have water generation systems to generate water out of thin air. The last part, and the most important part in this session today, is the food security and the food production. As you may know, there has been several catastrophes this year hitting and influencing a whole lot of people out there, aside the pandemic itself. For example, in India, in the Middle East, in Africa, there is the biggest swarms of locusts since 70 years. And those swarms of locusts are now influencing maybe even up to 2 billion people. Then you had the cyclone recently in India and Bangladesh, influencing millions. So food security becomes more important now than ever before. Also because of the pandemic, countries have stopped exporting their goods. They have kept their goods for themselves as safety, security, to be sure that they have enough. So some countries have had a reduction in the importing of food. Plus, of course, there has been let's say, panic purchasing, where many have bought a lot of things to stack up during the lockdowns and so on. So food security is now in our bet is that food and food security will be the most important, let's say, side of business for the years to come. There will be a few other sectors. For example, the real estate sector may not be flourishing right now, and the industry, travel, for example, will probably take a little dive, but food is needed regardless. So this is now our focus. When we entered into COVID-19 for our personal sake, we were not able to travel as many others. So many experienced revenue streams disrupted, and panic and fear were influencing society. And this is what every one of you have experienced for the past few weeks. Everyone has been trying to find now new ways of coping with these challenges. So for our own sake, we have been using our international networks more than ever. So that came in handy when we started this already 8 years ago. We have traveled to many countries in the past 50 countries, states, overseas territories, and so on. We have met a lot of people and companies. So this comes in handy now that we have a large network which we can play with and cooperate with when we have not had a chance of traveling, and we don't know when we will be able to travel again. So it's more important than ever to cooperate with you guys and everyone else out there who will become our partners and assist us in bringing our solutions to market. Yeah, the new alliances and partnerships, e-meetings, webinars, and so on. So Zoom call like this, I have been participating almost day and night now for weeks. I have met more people during these weeks than ever before. So it has been actually positive in that respect. Yeah, we have also started cooperation in sourcing funding across disciplines, meaning that in order to succeed, everyone needs money. Even if, I mean, if it's coming from the government, if it's coming from the banks, or if it's coming from investors, being investors, direct investors, or business partners, or philanthropic foundations, philanthropic investors, and so on. One needs money now more than ever to bring new concepts forward. So we actually, this past weekend, we just sent a little info email to a few of our closest partners to ask if anyone had any ideas they would like to bring to market now in the near future. And with this, there was an organization which were interested in funding companies which had good ideas to create jobs out there. And we received more than 30 applications just by those few connections. We sent out the invitation to send their suggestions, their submissions, and this organization, they have received tons of applications. So I'm not sure, of course, how it's going to go, since there are so extremely many who need funding. But this shows what I'm talking about, that funding is more important than ever. And we are working on this to create a separate entity working only with funding, to source funding for projects. So regardless of our own projects, but for others, to create like a cross-country international collaboration. Now, for the future, what we have spoken of now is food security is important. For our own sake, apart from food, we also are planning on creating eco-villages in the future, including affordable homes and food production as part of human habitat. This is part of my dream 8 years ago. When I had a vision of a new world already 8 years ago, this is what I saw. I saw that there weren't necessarily bigger cities, but there were diverse cities spread around the globe, both because there is so incredibly a lot of landmass out there. I mean, if you take the car and you drive from, for example, Houston, Texas, via Corpus Christi, Dallas, into New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, California, there is a whole lot of nothing, really. The same thing in Sweden. If you drive from around the middle of Sweden, in line with Oslo in Norway, and you drive into Sweden and you drive for 10 hours straight up north, or towards the north, there is a whole lot of nothing. I mean, there is surely rivers, woods, plains, but there is a lot of space. And in some other countries where maybe it's overpopulated and it's crowded, like, for example, Rio de Janeiro, outside of Brazil, it's crowded, a lot of favelas. With Norwegian technology, we could even put up a city on the on the shoreline of the area there. So we can use oil drill platforms as basis. And part of our portfolio, we have building materials which are yet to be manufactured in a robotic factory. It has been produced manually in the past, but it can stand against salt water, humidity, and everything. So that's part of the home to live living side of things. So then let's come to the point. Sorry for bringing you this long direction and story for our home to live concept. So part of the solutions which we have found, which will be beneficial for humanity right now, it's use of soap bubbles to insulate agricultural structures which are contained inside a strong and durable fabric. And this fabric will be able to stand against hurricanes up to category 5 once we have engineered it, and also stand against wildfires. So why is this important? Well, as we have seen, cyclones hitting India, Bangladesh, wildfires raging in Australia and in California previously, wiping out entire a lot of homes, urbanizations. With our structures now for the agricultural structures are supposed to stand against both hurricanes and wildfires, so they can even be used as shelters. The technology of using the soap bubbles is merely to keep a stable temperature inside the agricultural structures, so you save money on energy for heating and cooling, around 80–90% compared to traditional normal agricultural structures. And you save also around 80–90% water for watering the plants and so on inside this structure, because it doesn't vaporize. So this is a schematic picture of how it looks like. So around here are the soap bubbles in the exterior fabric of the tent material. It's not a tent, it's not a thin tent material, it's reinforced glass fiber, transparent fabric, which is durable, and it's a double layer, so an outer and inner fabric. And inside here are the soap bubbles, which are insulating against the sun and against the cold. So depending on the temperature outside. So this is suitable for Sahara, for the Arctic areas, Norway, well, any country, Dubai, yeah, Jordan, any country which has a temperature and has a change in temperature during the part of the year, this comes in handy. Even if there is a stable temperature, still, because the produce inside here doesn't want to have too much sunshine. So if you compare other types of materials like windows, glass, rock wool, straw, and so on, this soap, which is containing air, in reality it's contained air, has the best U value compared to many other systems and materials, and also cheaper. So that's the funny part. We are planning to bring to market something which is the cheapest you can get. So that's it. Yes, Samir, you wanted to ask something? You raised your hand. Oh, okay. Anyway, this is how the machine is looking like. As an example, this is a cheap solution, not the large-scale industrial ones which we are planning to bring to market, but it shows the system in action. This is just a wooden frame and plastic, so this will not tolerate anything, but it has been tested for a few years back. Several structures, one in Norway, one in the UK, Canada, and some other places, to test how these things, how the soap bubble system is working. This is also a better explanation how this works. So you can see that the soap bubbles can, for example, be so bubbles can be on, for example, on one side where the sunshine is hitting, and then not on the other side. So that's how things are. And when the sun is hitting and changing, the soap bubbles can then be used within the chamber on one side, on the other side, or both sides, or not at all. So the whole point is to create then the perfect atmosphere inside. This is an example of a 3D model of how this may look like. This is 3-story unit. One can have fish cultivation, for example, down in the ground floor, and then you can have several layers of produce in the upper floor to maximize the amount of produce per year within this confined space. So these structures are planned from our side to be in aluminum, extruded aluminum. We have a tentative cooperation with Hydro Aluminum, which is the largest manufacturer of extruded aluminum in the world. They even have a green aluminum, which is recycled, where more than 70% of the aluminum is being reused in the new recycled product. So compared to steel and many other products, this aluminum has the highest degree of reuse, which I know of. But we can even use bamboo structures. We can use galvanized steel, obviously, but also other type of structures. But until further, our plan is to use the extruded aluminum material to create a strong and durable for many lifetimes structure, and then the fabric on top. So this was basically what I wanted you to see from my presentation. I can talk, there is much more to this, because we can mix this with human habitat. We can have a house, an apartment or something downstairs here, and we can have the food production on top. We can also use this as a shelter for refugees in refugee camps, or for homeless people, where they can either use this ground space as a dormitory, living space, and then there can be food production on top. So we can have even efficient food production at refugee camps, or for homeless people, where they can even harvest and join in making the food and so on. These can be used for creating shops, stores across any country, where you can have the shop downstairs like a farmer's market, and then you can have the produce on top. So you will almost not get more fresh food than, well, you can have a small unit of this one in your backyard, that's for sure. So we are planning that in the future. But to begin with, we are targeting farmers, medium-sized, small, medium-sized, and large farmers, and we will also planning on some bigger industrial scaled units of several thousand square meter or square feet. So this is, and actually we have a partner working together with us to see the possibility of using this as temporary emergency hospitals. So now this, in the pandemic, now this became very hot potato, to be able to test, surveil, and treat patients outside of hospitals. And later, so then we would use a fabric which is less transparent. So still, it will have the same qualities, but less transparent. And then when one does not need to use it as a hospital anymore, one can use it as a greenhouse. So it will always be useful for different use. Okay, I think that covers some of the things I wanted to say. Now, for a private person, once we start manufacturing some smaller units of this, people can use them for their own private use. So if you imagine a private household, for example, which has a small unit back in the backyard, you can have this like a private family can live of the produce on a yearly basis, and the excess food one can sell. So one can have like a part-time earning for a whole family to live of the extra produce and sell it to a farmer's market, hotel, restaurant, or whatever. And I have seen people in the US, families, they do this. Either the husband or the wife are staying at home and producing food with even homemade solutions, which I have seen create some problems during winter when the fabric is ripped apart and they need to secure everything and use a whole lot of money for heating and so on. So that's where our future small backyard structures will come in handy. Okay, so let's see if there is any questions. I have seen some raised hands. So if there is anyone now who would like to comment or who has any questions regarding this, please come forward. So Vasanth Kamath, you have, oh, you have lowered your hand. Okay, sorry. Anyone else? Yes, Annie, unmute yourself first and then go. Yes, Annie.
Hi, Rolf. Thanks
Hi,
a lot.
Annie.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks a lot for inviting me for a very special presentation. I'm really impressed. I think that we can really benefit a lot from what you have presented in Jordan. But again, as you said, we need the funding. But before asking about the funding, I was interested to know the impact, I mean, the quality of the production. Did you really test the quality of the production and the beauty aspect of the design? So two things it really, I would like to have a response.
Yeah. Okay. So the first question you said was the testing of the structure. You said.
No, I mean the food quality, the production.
Oh, the food quality. Yes, we have tested this for 2 years together with a university in Poland, and also a municipality outside of Oslo has a company which is working on utilizing some special fertilizer which they produce themselves, and they manufacture tomatoes, cucumber, and lettuce for 2 years inside these structures to test the system. And now after those 2 years, the structure in Norway was sold to a company which continued to produce tomatoes. And those tomatoes are really red and really juicy and really nice aroma and perfect quality. So we the amount of greenery in Norway during those 2 years was double as much output compared to traditional greenhouses, with far less cost for energy, for heating and cooling and water. So the upside from Norway was enormous. But we have seen and calculated, for example, in areas which are really hot and bombarded by sunshine, where you have really, really warm weather, it's actually even more beneficial, because the cost for cooling is actually more expensive than the cost for heating.
Okay.
Yeah. And now during this locust problem in several countries, our structures are closed, so the crops will not be destroyed. that's a very important factor regarding food security.
You know, I mean, just to confirm what you said, Rolf, during the COVID and after the COVID, when I met my colleagues from professors, they all had this need and urge to have their own food production in their own houses. And this is what we missed during COVID, especially when we didn't have any access for any kind of food for a period of time and the suppliers. So there was a really urge for that. And I'm thinking, of course, I want to give the chance for my colleagues, I mean, to speak, but I just want to say that my intention to have this kind of a model city inside Jordan and in Armenia as well. And I've already thought of some project, but again, the issue of funding, but we are highly interested and I hope we can cooperate and we can see people who can really support us in our project. And thank you all.
Yes, absolutely. Let's see, we had a question from Vasanth Kamath.
Yes, hi, Rolf.
Hi.
We run a startup in India trying to support small and marginal dairy farmers in extreme temperature areas to grow fodder. Now, fodder is extremely low commodity value in terms of currency, but it is extremely important, right? And dairy, India is number one in dairy. And fodder is there is extreme shortage of fodder, but shortage of fodder is just 1/3 of the year, and for the rest of the year you have some availability, right? And so we are trying to develop a grow house, or what we call the fodder station, inside a structure that is very unique to India, because we have to make it very low cost, not like what Netherlands or rest of the country has done. And so we're using a lot of local materials, and we want to design it in a way that without doing anything, we get a temperature differential of about 10 to 15 degrees. And then we are able to grow mushrooms, fodder, and very very specific produce, so that there is sustained, guaranteed livelihood in these rural areas for the rural people. And so we are getting tested in every aspect, right? We have to push the technology to the nth limit and make it so low cost and so guaranteed that we are getting tested in every aspect. And what you've presented just is mind blowing. And I'd love to learn a little bit more. It's just the first time I'm hearing all of these things, so I'm very excited about this. Hope you could throw some light on extreme agriculture, especially in arid areas, which have both 50 degrees and 0 degrees at the same time, or different times, and very rural areas. So I feel mushroom and fodder are two classical crops that can guarantee that livelihood. Any other thoughts or questions that you'd like to pose?
Okay, thank you for your questions, Vasanth. And our solutions are absolutely meant to be developed for developing countries, absolutely. And we, as Home to Live, we have been working around the clock for years to find the best solutions, the cheapest solutions, not to maximize the earnings in the northern Western countries, but on the other hand, to be able to build and distribute our solutions to Africa, to India, and everywhere else, South America, and so on. So, as I said during the presentation, right now we are looking at the cooperation with Hydro Aluminum, being the largest supplier of aluminum structures. So aluminum is quite affordable, it's lightweight, it's easy to maneuver, and basically anyone can assemble aluminum structures. So our plan is to engineer now. During this summer, we are planning to make now the first workable prototype with the new materials, because as I said, it was built in the past with different solutions, wooden frames, plastic, and so on, which is not durable. So we are planning to engineer with low-cost material, yes, durable structures, which are easy to assemble with no or as little tools as possible with interlocking mechanisms for the structures. And then one is basically putting the fabric on top of the structures, and they are then secured in such a way so they will be durable to stand against hurricanes up to category 5 and wildfires, bushfires and so on. So I see that there is a question from Samir regarding the envelope and the fire resistance. So the engineers we have been speaking with up till now, they already have the solution for the mix of the fabric, which will make it fire resistant. Now there was a discussion if we should have 2 different alternatives, one cheaper alternative, which is not fire resistant, and one a little slightly more expensive alternative, which is 100% fire resistant. And we will see how it will fall out eventually when we have done the engineering, how much price difference it will make. Because in our minds, if we can make one solution where everyone knows that it's fire resistant, that means that everyone can use those as shelters if there are particularly problems like wildfires and bushfires. It becomes suddenly a false safety security if we use a mix, sometimes fire resistant and sometimes not. So this is something we need to think about in regards of the marketing and the implementation. But as I also mentioned, we are using or planning to use aluminum structures, but we also have a cooperation with some Indian companies which are working with bamboo. And we are thinking that we might be using bamboo as an alternative for low-cost countries. So,
Rolf,
Hi,
this
Samir.
is Samir.
Yeah, I can see. Welcome.
Hi. So glad to get to know all of you. And so, Vasanth, to your question, I'm from India as well, and you know, my grandparents did a lot of work in villages and stuff. And typically, the way this stuff is done in developing countries, you know, like India, Africa, it is different. You know, like you mentioned, Rolf. Usually, the way, say, places like India build these kind of tents or temporary structures is with bamboo, which is lashed together, because that's something that can be done on the ground. The materials are readily available. It's all completely eco-friendly. My suggestion here is that there is a bifurcation by the application, right? So for very low cost type of structures in developing countries, you'd want a different kind of material. So there's much less emphasis or much less priority on, say, fire resistance or hurricane resistance, because those geographies don't have those issues as such.
Yeah.
You know, to some extent there may be sort of a fire risk, but that's relatively minimal because these structures tend to be put up in places where you don't have a whole lot of foliage around. You know, perhaps in an empty field or something. So, you know, there isn't that much risk of fire as such. The priority really, you know, as Vasanth had mentioned, the priority there really is on cost. So then you want locally sourced fabrics.
Yeah.
So they use those on slums a lot, right? The roofs of slums. So those are the fabrics to use for that type of situation, because local village people can build and maintain all of that themselves using local materials. So, you know, the common components are things like, say, the soap bubble pump. You know, there are low-cost ways to make that, right? And then you just have a soap bubble solution, which can be made from, you know, from locally available soap as well. So you'd use that type of approach, whereas for the higher-end applications, you know, like, say, the hospitals or other things like that, or refugee centers, I mean, then you need much more certification. There's issues of legal liability. There's all of those things. So, you know, we're looking at quite different materials and design or building approaches as well as sourcing approaches for the materials in those different situations.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, this is perfect input, and absolutely how Home to Live is working. That's exactly how we have been thinking all the way from the beginning, to use different sources of suppliers, different materials, to create different pricing for different parts of the world. So we will see there is a question here regarding the cost of a premium 3-story structure concept, for example, to the US. If we have calculated the one which is 24 feet wide, 24 feet long, 24 feet high in 3 floors, the cost from our production to the end user, inclusive transport, if manufactured in the US and used, or Canada and used in the US, finished with the assembly and everything, it's gonna be, for example, like $110,000-$120,000. And with the produce, with the fish cultivation and the greenery inside, we're talking about a 2-year return on investment in the US. So, but for India, this is not viable. So that's where we need to really look at the engineering and see how we can minimize the cost. Even we don't need all the monitoring. We don't need all the bits and pieces, which is part of the higher end market in certain countries, where you want to have like an exact science, exactly how many degrees is suitable, for example, for trout cultivation, 17 degrees, for example. And then you have certain type of greeneries which need a certain type of humidity. So those greenhouses in some countries we can engineer so they can have on the spot, on the degree, that exact degree, so it maximizes the output per year 100%. Now in lower cost countries, it doesn't matter if it's a few kilos less or if it's this and that. It will be the system which is working, which is more important, and the low cost price to the end user. So did you have another question, Vasanth? So you had your, or Jennifer, do you have a question?
Well, I think one other question is there any difference between micro bubbling as a concept that's catching up? Because the size of the bubbles are very small, and so therefore their ability to capture more heat or just the ability to just because the surface area is higher, they have a larger difference compared to other sizes of bubbles. And so any thoughts on that?
Yes, absolutely. With the soap bubble machines and the mixture of the soap, we can determine the size quite easily. And as you say, it varies a little bit. It has a small impact, not a huge and enormous impact, but yes, it does have, where it's extreme hot, it will become, let's say, more dense. So it stops the sun rays to enter into the structure better. So you will have a easier way of containing the correct temperature inside. So yeah, but that's the pumps which are pumping in the soap bubbles. There we can use different size of the openings. So when they spray the soap bubbles and they inflate them, then we can decide the size of those ones. And just to also to mention it, there are chambers which collect the soap when it's not in use. So for example, when the temperature drops during evening or nighttime and you don't need the soap bubbles, they are being collected in the chambers and then they are being reused the day after. So in this closed environment, you need to add very, very little water for watering the plants. We make use of aquaponics, hydroponics, aeroponics, and different solutions to minimize the amount of water. And then with no needed to add soap either, this becomes quite cheap to run on a yearly basis, year after year. So yeah. Any more questions? Jennifer, you had the question?
Hi, Rolf. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi.
Hi. Sorry, I'm on the road right now, so you don't see me on video. So I was just listening to what you were talking about, the different materials, and I did notice some kind of new companies that are coming out with hemp products.
Yep.
And, you know, I thought of you whenever I saw the advertisements online. And it doesn't sound to me it would be as durable. Maybe, you know, for other countries, you know, maybe developing countries, it's a material that may be even better. But it seems like there is a trend to going towards that kind of, you know, everyone's right now, they're all talking about hemp. Yeah. Everywhere here in the States. Are you familiar with that, or what do you?
Yeah.
What is your?
Yes, I've spoken with some social entrepreneurs, philanthropic investors. Actually, a lady who is planning to set up some production to have young women learn how to use hemp to make materials to create different types of materials with hemp as the base. So she is planning to set up these structures and give away kind of the produced hemp and create jobs for young women to learn how to make materials out of hemp. So,
but you know, they actually use it for building and construction now. This is what I've read.
Yeah,
Have you heard anything about that?
Yes, absolutely. Hemp is a very, very multi-use material. So within our greenhouses, you can grow even more. And I see that there are more and more companies, many companies in the US and Canada, especially. This has been going on for quite a few years now. So
I see. And do you feel like your products are more durable?
Well, it's a totally. I mean, we are promoting the growth. I mean, you can grow hemp inside our structures, and we have a higher output per year. So you can use the hemp for whatever kind of products to produce. Yeah, sure, building materials, whatever. But hemp is not transparent as per se. So our transparent solution is quite better regarding the greenery. So I see time is running up. So Roy, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Okay, welcome. Hi, Rolf.
Hi.
Yeah, I just want to, obviously I know a little bit about this already. Where I see this, it's very good for urban farming and vertical farming, where you actually can put these units in small spaces within the cities, because there's a big demand for producing organic vegetables, you know, close to where they're actually going to be consumed, because of the carbon footprint and everything else that it does. Now, obviously, I understand that you can grow a number of different things, various ways, aquaponics, hydroponics, and all this thing. And where I see you having the cutting edge against competitors is that a lot of aquaponics and a lot of the hydroponics are actually done inside, you know, sort of closed units where there's no light, and this can run up to quite a considerable amount of money, and the payback becomes quite a considerable time. So if you're saying that, you know, with your standard size greenhouse, so to speak, that the payback is 2 years, and I'm presuming that that's been based on a particular maybe vegetable that you're actually growing inside there. I can see this being a win-win thing, especially for urban farming within cities. I mean, I'm already looking at places in London, pieces of land where no doubt planning permission will be given for this concept. So, you know, when you're saying that you're bringing out a 24 by 24 by 24 foot structure, then that's going to be an ideal size for a lot of, you know, urban sites that are available in cities. I know I can see the great use of it for, you know, third world countries as well, obviously, but I really see a big market for it. within urban cities.
Yeah, thanks. So we have possibility of making larger units also, but in cities there is a limited amount of space, as Roy is pointing out. So the smaller size can be put in a row. You can have 2 or 3 after each other if the plot is narrow and long, or if you have only 2 or only 1. In outside of cities, of course, we can have like 48 feet times 48 feet times 48 feet, 6 floors, and you can produce 4 times more. Then the return will also be quicker. So yeah, there was a question from someone regarding the patenting of the soap bubble system, and it's actually an open source technology. So the soap bubbles themselves are under common license for people to use for their private use, and we are merely building the structures to use those soap bubble systems inside them. So we are not licensing anyone, or we're not selling those as a patented product per se. I mean, the structure themselves, as I said, they can be manufactured with any kind of material in reality. So we are planning to facilitate a certain amount of standard sizes for backyards, for farmers, for industrial sized units, also with the human habitat mixed in with food production from our side. But anyone can in reality cooperate with us and produce things locally. And we can also assist in selling those structures to other customers in those areas together with partners. So the whole idea with this, if you see the home to live spirit, is to bring to market as affordable as possible, not as expensive as possible. It's supposed to be for everyone.
Hi,
yeah.
Ashray, there is, Rolf,
Yeah.
there is a building standard called Ashray 55.
Yeah.
It outlines the sort of the climatic conditions to which human comfort is assigned to, right? So it says Ashray 55 is equal to temperature has to be this, and humidity has to be this, and blah 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 blah. So
Yeah.
Ashray 55 is a great standard for the world community to work towards bringing or converging the technologies so that it works for everybody, whether it is growing or living. And more so, it is important for people living in rural areas to earn a livelihood, because for those who live in extreme temperatures, livelihood is going to go away in just a few months, not years, right?
Yes.
Whether it's drought or famine or whatever. So there is an urgent need to make and test ourselves so that they are able to earn their livelihood. And I think that gives us a sort of a certificate or whatever to go further and scale it up.
Yes, absolutely. And this is basically what we are inviting. We are inviting partners worldwide to test and implement the solution and improve, and we will help spread. If there is financing needed, we will assist in bringing financing to the table via our new company, which we are planning to form as a company by itself, because we see that this is the biggest struggle worldwide, as I spoke about earlier today. So food security is part of it, and the structure bring them to market, but also money is needed.
Yeah.
So we have some more questions here. Colette, hi.
Hi, Rolf.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the information you shared thus far. You know already that I completely believe in this project, in this particular idea. And so I just have a couple questions. For those of us who understand, Jack Roy spoke to how well this would work within the urban space. And I sit in New York City, and I can tell you it's why I believe this project is viable. We need localized food supply. The trucking of our food will no longer be, ideal with everything else that we're seeing with the supply chain. So my question is really around how can we make this as easy as possible for others who are not well in the midst right now to get how easy this could be, how affordable it is as well, for different market spaces. So would it be possible for us to get a clear costing options for the home system, for the city size system, that would be both allow for standardization that can be worked in just about any place, and also the materials, being if we do a bamboo option and an aluminum option, so that when we're talking with other partners or even choosing funding options, we can then be very clear about what's
Absolutely.
possible. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. This is part of the things we are planning to bring to market with different solutions, so one can choose for different markets. So one will get a very clear picture of the quality, the package which is included, and the cost. Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I see that we have to end now. Sorry, we are past the hour by 10 minutes actually. So we could, I know that we could go on for a long time. So I'm stopping the recording now. Thank you very much for the participation, everyone.